Welcome to What to Do When, a podcast from real lawyers with real perspective, where we explore a variety of legal issues and scenarios. Each week, we focus on a new topic and discuss what to do when and if any of these legal scenarios ever happen to you or a loved one. With over 40 years of combined legal experience, our hosts offer their unique perspectives and insights on a range of real-life legal situations.
Hi, and welcome back to Critzer Cardani, a podcast here in Richmond, Virginia.
Hey, Jackie, what's on the docket for today?
Today is expungement.
Well, that's a tricky one. We get a lot of confusing calls about expungement, what it is, what it means. I think the biggest thing that we need to talk about today is expungement is not when you've been convicted of a crime and you want your record clean. Expungement's when you've been charged. Well, usually the simple version is it's when you've been charged with a crime and for some reason that crime didn't go forward. They dropped the charges against you. The prosecutor null pros the charges for some reason.
So what is null pros? What is that? That's a word that's...
Well, actually, it's actually nulli prosecuti. No, that's...
A little extra Latin?
That's actually how a judge used to say it, and I used to laugh about that. But nullo prosecute means the Commonwealth chooses not to prosecute the case. That means they have a case against you, and for whatever reason, they don't believe their evidence is probably strong enough to go forward, so they talk to the judge and say, hey, we're not going to go forward with this case. That doesn't mean they can't bring it back, and a misdemeanor they have a year, and a felony they have a couple years to bring that back. 7 years, I think, is the key. But
well, you said they can bring it back, not to derail the expungement, but can you get something that's null prost? In other words, the charges, they haven't moved forward on the charges, and it's within the year, you said, I think, for a misdemeanor, and they say it's 6 months in. Can you get that expunged even if they still have the window of opportunity to move forward on charges that they bring again?
That would probably be up to the Commonwealth. If the Commonwealth had no intention of bringing it back, they probably wouldn't fight it. But they could fight it and say, well, you need to wait your year, and usually you do wait that time period. But the other thing about expungements that not a lot of people know, this doesn't destroy your criminal record. What it basically does more than anything is kind of hide your criminal record from everybody. So honestly, this is one of my pet peeves. With as long as I've been doing the law, I feel like if I get charged with a crime, well, better yet, you would be more likely. So say Jackie gets some kind of big charge. Money
laundering.
Money laundering. And,
like Walter White.
The cop takes out money laundering charging after a long investigation, and then they turn out, well, it wasn't Jackie, it was her sister. Anyways, regardless of that, that's what we're talking about, that when that happens, you have the right to expunge.
And so what does that mean? What does even expunge mean? I've been charged. They decided they weren't going to move forward with the charges, so now the charge is gone for whatever reason. Yeah,
it means it's taken out of the view of the public and out of the view of everybody. Now, sometimes there's a way to go back in and get it, and for law enforcement, they can give special permission to look at your unofficial official record, but really, for the basic, though, for jobs and employment and all those things, it's off your record. So when they pull your criminal history, or you pull your criminal history at the state police, well, that was not me. Anyways, when you pull your criminal history, it's off your record. So, like, you're applying for a job now with the Critzer Cardani, that great law firm in Richmond.
Yes, that one. I've heard of it.
Anyways, and they look at your record and you had this this embezzlement charge. What did we say it was? Laundering, sorry. Your laundry was hanging out, and you go, man, I hope that's not on my record. And you look because you went and sought an attorney's advice and you got it expunged. They can't see it, and that's what it's really about.
All right. So on some applications, you've probably seen it. Well, maybe not because you've been practicing even longer than me. But on the application, it reads, have you ever been convicted? But also now we're seeing, have you ever been charged with a crime? Fill in the blank. So most of the time, I think they're crimes of dishonesty. Money laundering, probably a crime of dishonesty. Let's just go with that. It's not lying. Well, it is not stealing. It's washing ill-gotten money. So it's not, it's a little gray, but I've been charged with that. I went to Scott Cardani. He got it expunged for me. It's not going to show up on a background check. It's not going to show up on even maybe even an arrest record, maybe. But
It won't.
I can't lie on we're not advocating that people lie or advocating that people lie on an application.
And this is my biggest frustration when they ask those questions. You know, I don't think it's fair to ask that question because just because you've been charged with something doesn't mean you did anything wrong. I mean, we see this all the time, especially in assault and battery cases where one person claims the other person hit them and we go to court and there's no evidence and it gets dropped and all of a sudden, you know, it's just a way to control somebody, which we see a lot of. So it's not a really fair question, I think, but I think the better course of action is say, yeah, I was charged, but they took it off my record because it wasn't real.
But the expungement would remove it from someone being able to see that you were charged with that. Although,
that's exactly right.
Could they see it even if you were charged but not convicted? Not really. Not on a background check. They're not going to see charges.
Can. That's the biggest thing that people miss. So, and this is why expungement is so important. It's why I wanted to bring it up. Perfect question, Jackie, as usual. Here's the deal. If Jackie gets charged with an assault and battery against me, which happens all the time. Anyways, if she got charged with assault and battery against me and it later was either null pros or she was acquitted, not guilty, whatever it was, and she doesn't want that on her record, then she has to go through the process of expungement. Other than that, once you get charged, it goes into the criminal system. That charge is there forever until you remove it, even if you did nothing wrong. There is a lot of movement in the General Assembly, and I could go through that, and I know this is not the place. Some crimes are getting removed now, and through timing and issues that have to be removed off your record and all those kind of things. There are some automatic expungement stuff going on, but I didn't want to get into all that. That's why you really need to seek a lawyer.
Well, who can do an expungement? Does it have to be an attorney, or could I walk in and do it myself?
Well, it's a pro se can definitely do it. You have to petition the circuit court unless, I think the only exception, and I could be wrong, there's probably some lawyer going to email me and say I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the only exception is when it's a crime of false identity, got the wrong name. You usually have to go to the specific court that charged under your name and ask them to withdraw it as not your name. But other than that, it's always the circuit court in the county that you were convicted in, and charged in, and you go to the circuit court, you put the petition to the Commonwealth attorney, and it goes from there. And remember, this applies to things like could be in civil records too that you don't want people to see on your record. So there's a lot of things you might want expungement for that just aren't criminals, but I'll get into that later, and I don't think this is the one to get deep into that. So
when can you get it expunged? Is it, what happens if you're found guilty, but it's been 5 years, 10 years, 30 years? Yeah. Can you ever get it expunged at that point?
Yeah, if you've been found guilty, it's a no. And there are some exceptions to that, and you really need to talk to a lawyer. But I think the biggest thing is, number one, you need to know who's entitled to an expungement. And it's usually a defendant who has a criminal case that found not guilty, a person in civil action who is charged with contempt of court or found not guilty of that. But contempt of court is a big one because it says you're not showing up for work. The null pros we talked about earlier, and those kind of things. Now, there are exceptions. Like one of the big ones that I want to bring up real quick is assault and battery. If you take what they do, they take it. A lot of people say the court will take it under advisement under the statute. It's 18.257.3, but it gives the court an ability to hold the matter for a year, and if you do nothing else, they'll dismiss it after that year. That's not expungible because you took a deal.
Oh.
So those are little things, nuances that we have to have.
So deferred dispositions are not expungible?
Not automatically, no.
Okay.
So that's the thing. But here's where you start. I think, number one, you got to know what you're dealing with and what expungement is and what it isn't. I think we covered that. Number two, I think most importantly is you want to start with spending the $15 or $20, whatever the state police are charging now, to get a copy of your criminal record. Because you may think something's on your criminal record and you pull it and it's not there. Mm-hmm. If it's not there, it's not there. Why try to create something that's not there? Mm-hmm. So you go to the state police, you ask for a criminal record, they'll show you, and then you can go through it. In Jackie's case, you'd go through and say, well, I did that assault, but I didn't do that one. Or whatever it is. And so you get this little...
I was charged with that money laundering, but not found guilty.
Yeah. So that gives you your roadmap of what you need to attack. And then the third step is you make an appointment with some good lawyers like Critzer Cardani, and we walk you through the process. And, sometimes you think you have a winner, and it's not a winner. It's just unfortunate. Sometimes through the research, there's things that you thought happened that didn't happen, quite frankly, sometimes I've had so many people thought they were charged with a felony and it wasn't a misdemeanor and didn't think they were charged with a felony and it was a felony, and there's all kinds of stuff like that. So, that's why we need that criminal record to really know, and that saves us and you a lot of time. The worst thing you want to do is go to a lawyer and say, hey, I need this assault and battery or this felony that I was charged with expunged, and we start doing the research, we get in, you paid your money, and you find out it's either not on your record or you were actually found guilty and there's nothing
thing we can do for you.
And then you're going to look at me and say, hey, I want my money back. You weren't able to do anything. And I'm like, well, you told me this and I was working from that. So it's kind of a tricky wicket. I always like to have the criminal record up front.
And also, if your charge was even reduced, that's still not expungible. If you accepted a deal in a reduced charge, the original charge may or may not show up. The charge that you accepted the deal for is going to show up. Neither one are expungible. That's going to stick. So lots of nuances in expungement, but worth a phone call and worth doing some research ahead of the time that you make the phone call so that you can figure out if it's something that is even expungible. And
let me say this last thing. I think this is really important for young people who may have gotten in trouble, like they're 18, 19, and they didn't get charged, it didn't go through. But that's sitting on their criminal record. And a lot of times they don't realize that. And a lot of times they're getting flagged out for a job because, let's face it, when somebody pulls that criminal record, an employee starts looking through that criminal record, and he may not be sophisticated enough to know whether you were actually found guilty, not guilty.
Sure.
He sees the charge. So for me, as a parent, I think it's so important to try to help your child keep that clean. And maybe they made a couple mistakes and maybe it turned out to be nothing, but if you can keep that record clean, it keeps them in the race, in the hunt for a good job, and keeps them on the right track.
Well, thanks for listening to our podcast today here at Critzer Cardani. Stay tuned for additional podcasts. We look forward to hearing from you. Be sure and like and subscribe.
Sure. Yeah, good job.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of What to Do When. For more episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, and we encourage you to check our archives to listen to previous topics. Tune in next week for a new episode and some fresh perspective from Critzer Cardani.